You can't make more money. You can't maintain the relationship. You can't possibly have a more fitting partner. You can be more sexy. You can be more sensual. You can't wear that. And the can'ts can serve to keep us constricted and restricted, contained in a familiar, small, safe reality. These days, I dance pretty much every day. And this is my primary spiritual practice, my primary method and means of embodied emotional alchemy and a consistent relationship with the I can't inside of me. The victim consciousness that I have been committed to transforming for the past, 15 or so years of my life really is predicated on statements and beliefs that begin with I can't and I have to. So when we say I can't, it can be true, right? It can be true. You can't. You can't make more money. You can't maintain the relationship. You can't possibly have a more fitting partner. You can be more sexy. You can be more sensual. You can't wear that, right? And the can'ts can serve to keep us constricted and restricted, contained in a familiar, small, safe reality, because the subconscious relationship that we have to expansion and growth, especially into territories that would require some degree of identity diffusion and identity plasticity, that's been tagged as a dangerous endeavor for good reason, from our childhood experiences. So we ultimately end up being our own prison guards. And that is one of the major plot twists of the reclamation path, is that victim consciousness can be transformed whenever it is that we defy our own small constructs. So what pole dancing represents to me is a huge I can for myself on so many different levels. And I'd love to share them in a more organized fashion, because otherwise I'll just ramble forever. Beginning with what was the sort of trigger, what was the fulcrum, what was the point in my life that really laid down fertile soil for this growth and for this expansion. So when I chose to leave my second marriage in 2021, there were parts of me that literally were annihilated with grief and anguish and fear and devastation. And the recovery process, honestly, in many ways is ongoing. However, in the early months of that window of my life, there was an opportunity for alchemy. And that required that I begin to sense and observe and develop curiosity about other parts that were also emerging. And it was sort of like they were peeking out from behind the curtain, asking if the coast was clear now. And as life would have it, through many different synchronicities, I ended up taking what was ultimately my second pole dance class with my girlfriend, Ayla. The first class that I took was several years prior, and it really just didn't stick. I was confused, actually, about why anybody would do this recreationally. I left with bruises and burning sensations on my skin, and I was literally unable to do any of the class. It was not fun. It was just not for me. So fast forward to this specific window of time where I decided to go, to this class, and something clicked. Something was opened up in me. And by, I would say, probably the 10th class, I installed a pole in my home. So these days I dance pretty much every day. And this is, I would say, my primary spiritual practice, my primary method and means of embodied emotional alchemy and a consistent relationship with the I can't inside of me, from the physical to the psychological to the spiritual. So the first lesson is 50 shades of feminine, as I call it. So I, like so many of the women listening, I imagine, have been often told, accused of being too masculine, too much in my masculine. And perhaps I have an interject that agrees, right? And says, you're too masculine. You don't know how to be a woman. You are never going to have the experiences of womanhood that you long for because you're just too hard around the edges, right? And as I began to explore in the same window of time, I was very attracted to explore the different feminine archetypes, the huntress, the queen, the lover, the sage, the maiden, the mother, the mystic. And I was reacquainted with the reality that the feminine is very prismatic, that there are so many different dimensions to the feminine. And what we might malign pejoratively as masculine may actually be a dimension of the dark feminine that socioculturally we are very threatened by, we are very uncomfortable with. I did a whole masterclass on this called Crazy to Creatrix, where I explored, what is this dimension of the feminine that, as David Data would say, slays anything less than love? Who is this? Who is she? Why are women and men alike terrified? So as I explored, these different prismatic dimensions of feminine energy, I found that in pole dance, there is such a treasure trove of opportunity to embody those different energies. So on a given day, when I wake up, I will feel into what wants to play, what wants to express. And, if I'm feeling, like I want to get in touch with a more elegant, structured expression, I might just put on a simple, leotard kind of a thing and have bare legs and bare feet and work a lot of the energies of my ballet training into the, spinning pole routine. If I want to feel a little sassier, I might put on heels. And so many people are like, why the heels? That's so patriarchal. And try it. That's what I have to say about that. Try putting on 8-inch platform heels or high boots and feel what that does to your body's movement. I mean, there's a reason in ballet, when I studied it as a tween, we use toe shoes, right? And so the way that you dance with those kinds of platform shoes and heels is completely different. You have different movement, there's different physics to it, and there's a different feeling to it. When I first put on those thigh-high boots, I reclaimed a part of myself. The exhilaration that I felt, and I am not somebody, if you listen to my introduction, who has really any relationship to heels or knows how to walk in them or anything. And there was some part of me that exhaled when I first began to play in these more provocative dimensions of dress and, with garters and, high cut booty shorts and all the rest. So there's also like flowy styles where you can really begin to feel long, smooth energies move through you. There's low flow. There's so many different styles, and they have corresponding clothing and looks and corresponding music and corresponding skill sets that are required to really begin to explore these different areas. And there's so much range that it's extraordinary to begin to appreciate. When I watch women dance, I could never have appreciated how much strength is required to render even the most simple movement, whether it's like a kick in high boots around the pole or whether it's a simple climb, to render that graceful. That is the paradox of the woman, right? That strength, that fierceness, coupled with that softness and that grace. And there's so much of it that runs through this practice.